Hey, welcome to Draft Academy. My name is Mike. In this tutorial, I want to talk to you about some more advanced styling in CSS. Over here in my web browser, I have this image, and overlaid on top of the image, I have this header. So I have this header one, I gave it a relative position, and I sort of just positioned it so that it's right on top of the image. And then I have this image, which is just using this picture. It's a logo of the CSS3 logo. So I want to show you how you can use some advanced CSS styling to make this image a little bit easier to look at. One of the problems is that this header is overlaid right over the image, and it actually is a little bit difficult to read. So I can read CSS tutorial there, but it doesn't pop out and it doesn't look like it's going to be easy for me to read it. One attribute that we can use in CSS is called opacity. And opacity is going to basically control the transparency of an element. So I can give this image tag some opacity, and it'll control how transparent the image is, and the more transparent the image is, the better I'll be able to see that header. So let's give this an opacity attribute, and whenever you're using this opacity attribute, you can pass it a number between 1.0 and 0.0. So 0.0 is going to be 100% full transparency, so you won't be able to see the image at all, and 1.0, the image will just look like it normally does, so it won't be transparent at all. I'm going to give this something like, let's say 0.5, and this will make this about half transparent. You can see that the image is now a little bit more transparent, right? You can see sort of what's behind it, and I think maybe like 0.4 will be a good value for this. And yeah, so I think that's good. Now the text is a little bit easier to read because that image is more opaque. Another thing I can do though to make this text pop is give it a text shadow. Over here on this H1, I'm going to give this a new CSS attribute. I'm just going to call it text shadow. And we can give text shadow a couple of different attributes. So this is going to control like what the shadow of this text is going to look like. So the first value I can give it, we'll give it 2 pixels, and this will be the like horizontal distance of the shadow. The second is, again, we'll give it 2 pixels. This will be the vertical distance of the shadow. So horizontal will be like this way, and vertical might be this way. And I can give it these two things, and now if you look over on this text, you'll see that it has a shadow. So we have the normal text, and then we have the shadow underneath it. But this still is a little bit hard to kind of see. So we can actually give the text shadow a color. So maybe we'll say like red. So we can give it, or whoops, we'll say red. And now, instead of being black, that shadow is going to show up as red, just like that. So it's a little bit easier to see it. We can also give this one more attribute, which again might help us to see it a little bit better, which is a blur attribute. And blur is going to go right after these horizontal and vertical numbers, and we can just say 2 again. So 2 pixel blur, and now that red stuff is going to be blurred a little bit. So you can see that it's sort of blurred there, and maybe we'll bring this up to 5, and it might be a little bit easier to see. So yeah, so at 5, it's like almost completely blurred, and it really just helps our text to pop off of that image a little bit. I can also use a shadow on this actual image attribute. So down here on the image, instead of specifying a text shadow, we want to specify what's called a box shadow. And box shadow works exactly the same as the text shadow, it's just named differently. So this box shadow can take these same attributes, so we'll make it 5 pixels, and we'll do a 5 pixel blur as well, and then let's make it gray. So now this image should have a box shadow around it, and you can see it does. So that box shadow kind of helps the image to pop out a little bit from the screen. Now, in addition to just giving this a shadow, I'm actually going to get rid of this box shadow. We can also give this a particular style of border. So we can use an attribute called border radius. And border radius is going to control like how circular the border is. So if you look at this image right now, it's just a square, right? So it has pointed edges. But if I give this a border radius property, so let's give this a border radius of like 5 pixels. Now when I reload this page, you'll see that the borders are circular, right? So this border is kind of like circular, and so is this one over here. It's giving it like a circular border. So if I was to give this something like 50, then it's going to be like even more circular. So you can use border radius to control the radius of the borders. You can also use percentages in this border radius. And so this is kind of like a neat little trick. If I do 50% border radius, then this will actually give me a circle. And so now you can see that this CSS tutorial and this image is contained inside of like a circular border radius, which is pretty cool. So that border radius property can come in handy when you want to like change either how something looks or the way that the border looks on an image in this case. So those are just some more advanced CSS styling properties that you can use to style something like an image and text just like this. Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe to Draft Academy to be the first to know when we release new content. Also, we're always looking to improve, so if you have any constructive criticism or questions or anything, leave a comment below. Finally, if you're enjoying Draft Academy and you want to help us grow, head over to draftacademy.com/contribute and invest in our future.